It is January 8th, and you're watching the Sick Podcast. Trust the process. The World Juniors have come to an end, and Team Sweden has finally won another gold medal. Congratulations to them. Well-deserved win. Team Czechia gets the silver, and Canada gets the bronze. But today, we're more focused on some of the players, more specifically, the undrafted players in the tournament. How did they perform? How did it impact their draft stock? We'll talk about it all. We're also going to talk about a few drafted players, namely one LJ Mooney of the Montreal Canadiens. A little later on, we're going to get to Snake's hot take, and we have 3 mailbag questions in the queue. It's going to be a fun show. Stay tuned. It all starts right here, right now.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Trust the process. The sickest NHL prospect podcast with Snake and Shayne.
With the 5th overall selection in the 2024 NHL Draft, the Montreal Canadiens are proud to select Ivan Demidov.
It's gonna be sick.
That's right. Producer Shayne here, joined as always by my counterpart, Simon the Snake Boisvert. Snake, how are we doing today?
I'm doing fine, and you, Shayne?
Fantastic. I was looking forward to this. You know, we're back in the swing of it now. Last show was excellent. A lot of people tuned in. Viewerships were great. So hoping the same for this show on Thursday. But I just love doing this, Snake. I miss doing it in the holidays. So I'm very happy to be back. And I'm happy to talk World Juniors with you. Now, we've discussed the kind of relevance or importance of this tournament based on, you know, draft stock and all that. It's not going to play much of a role unless it's, you know, on one end of the spectrum or on the other. Then it might have a bit of an impact. But overall, right, we're going to talk a little bit about those undrafted players that were in this tournament this year. And pretty good crop of that, by the way. Lots of interesting players who were playing in that tournament. But Snake, I want to start off with the gold winning team here, Team Sweden, okay? Because they had 2 that were quite good. And my favorite, and I think the guy I would take first overall right now, Ivar Stenberg, is the real deal, Snake. Like, he is unbelievable. When it mattered most in the gold medal game, he was the best player on the ice. No question about it. 7 points in 6 games for him. He was fantastic. What did you think of his tournament?
He started out a little bit slowly, but which is normal considering that these teams are just assembled very quickly in December. Players are not used to playing with each other. And he was also coming from the professional league in Sweden, going down to junior hockey. So there's always an adjustment in terms of pace. Michael Misa never really adjusted when you think about it.
Oh, that's true.
So he's supposed to be back with the Sharks, by the way, for those who want to know. And according to the media in San Jose, he will finish the year in San Jose because the deadline to send players back to junior hockey is Saturday. So getting back to Stenberg now, I think as the tournament went on, he became more and more dominant. I don't think that for now, the way I've analyzed Stenberg in the last few months, I don't necessarily see a top pick, if he becomes a top pick, that is going to be as good as, you know, the McDavids and the Celebrinis. And so he's not a generational player at all. But I do think that he can be an excellent NHLer. Because the qualities that he has right now are very, very translatable to the NHL. He has a little bit of grit in him. He's not afraid. He's highly skilled. He has great hands. He has a great shot, and he has great anticipation. So I do think that this will translate very well in the NHL. Where will he end up? We don't know now. Winnipeg is the clubhouse leader for the number 1 pick, but there's a lottery. We saw last year.
Yeah.
No one ever discussed the Islanders as the possible destination for Matthew Schaefer, so we're not going to speculate on that. But one thing is sure, I think he is NHL ready. That's something, because he's a late birthday. He's born in, I think, September or October of 2007. So I do think that if he wants to, if he feels ready to come to America, I do think that he will step right away into an NHL lineup. His teammate, Anton Frondel, drafted number 3 by the Blackhawks, was not a late birthday. So he was 17 years old when he was drafted. Therefore, he came back to Sweden for 1 year. He's been doing very well. Yeah. But I think we'll see both of them in the NHL. Will we see them both with Chicago? Who knows? But that would be a great one to punch for the Hawks, besides Bedard, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That would be something there if Chicago could get him. But his other teammate on Team Sweden that I really enjoyed, Viggo Bjork. Now, his name had been mentioned. This is not the first time I've heard of Viggo Bjork, but he put the world on notice here because he came to play. Okay, 7 points in 6 games, but really it's his impact. 200 feet, like he was intense. That's kind of the word that I took out of it. He was intense. Every shift, this guy came to play, and I love that about him.
Yes, he's on the smaller side. He's 5'9".
Yes, he is.
And this is a guy who's been on the radar for a couple of years. He's another late birthday. And I could see, a couple of years ago, even last year, these 2026 mock drafts. And I've seen him mentioned the top 5, actually.
Yeah.
Because he is highly skilled. This is what we saw at the tournament. I think if he were 6'1", I think he'd be in the conversation for number 1, honestly. Yeah. The fact that he's 5'9", and I do realize that, there are 5'9" great players in the NHL. So the idea is not to put him down because he's 5'9", but there are also 5'9" star junior players who don't make it because it's a little bit tougher when they get to the NHL. But I do think that he's worthy of being picked in the top 10, 15 or so. And I believe in him. I believe in his chances of having a good career in the NHL based on the skill level and the fact, like you say, he's everywhere on the ice. And I like that kind of player.
Excellent. Exactly. No, they were both very fun to watch. And, an NHL team is going to get very lucky in June. That's for sure. Going down the podium now, let's get to the silver winning team, Team Czechia, because they had a defenseman who, he had a lot of, praise, or I don't know what the right word is, but a lot of attention was put on Thomas Galvis, right? The undrafted defenseman, overager. He was eligible last year, did not get picked. 9 points in 6 games for him. Puck-moving defenseman, but again, undersized, right?
Yeah. They passed on him twice, actually, in 24 and 25.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the thing is, in his draft year, he was really undersized.
Yeah.
So he kind of grew a little bit, and he's a little bit bigger now. But 2 years ago, I think the reason why he was not considered was because he was very, very undersized. And then you know what happens with these guys? Once the teams pass on you in your first year eligibility, they tend to forget about you. And sometimes you will have a Bryce Bickford will be picked after being passed on. But the guy at the age of 18 or 19 has to really, really stand out to get the scouts' attention. And he has to really stand out, because if he doesn't, it's just considered normal progression for a guy who at 17 wasn't very good, at 18 was a little bit better, and at 19 he's good because obviously he's older than the average guy in his league, in his junior league. And that is why so few undrafted guys get drafted 2 years later and become a success. I remember very rarely are these guys first-round picks. I remember Tanner Pearson was one of them.
Yeah.
They passed on him twice. Great 19-year-old season. Got picked in the late first round. and he had a decent career. Played for the Habs for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's Brett Leeson, I think, also was in the same predicament, but Brett Leeson didn't have a very good career. So you see, it's I think in the case of Galvis, again, he's 19 years old, so you have to not take it with a grain of salt, but you have to be careful before thinking that, okay, he's going to be a dominant player next year. He's going to go to the American Hockey League and he's going to be a dominant player. We don't know. But would I take a flyer on him? Of course I would. Because between a guy like this, after the second round, honestly, come, rounds 3 to 7, I always say you're throwing darts. If you're going to throw darts, you better throw darts on player that you believe have some kind of a ceiling.
Yeah.
Could be a goalie. We always mention that the Habs draft a lot of goalies, which is the right thing to do because we don't know about goalies. It's kind of, they're voodoo basically in terms of trying to predict what they're going to do. And I do think that in rounds 3 to 7, you throw darts. I'm going back to the Habs, as the example. Bryce Bickford, LG Mooney. Those are darts because the guys have potential. They might not reach it, but at least they give you hope. Whereas very often you're going to draft a guy who basically his ceiling is fourth liner. Why do you bother?
Yeah. Oh, he's big. He's big, Snake. He's big.
Yeah, but you can always find big fourth liners on July 1st at the trade deadline. They don't cost that much. And I'm not talking Tom Wilson, okay? Because Tom Wilson was a first-round pick. He could play hockey. That's not the same thing. But I'm talking about some guys that basically, have very limited skills. And they're drafted in the 6th round. And they might not even end up in the East Coast League. So that's why I think that the idea of throwing darts is what you should do at the draft. Galvis, I would probably start considering him in the 3rd round.
Interesting. No, he was something else. And that whole team Czechia, I mean, I got to give them props. Like they came to play. Like they were really good this tournament. I mean, they were getting pretty much dominated by Team Sweden in the gold medal game, and they never gave up.
No.
3 minutes to go, and they were still going at it, and they scored some goals. Like they were going back in the game. So lots of credit to Team Czechia. Some big performances on that team this year. So credit to them. They're becoming a heck of a hockey nation, man. It's impressive. Now, moving down the podium to the bronze medal team, we're going to spend some time on these guys, okay? Team Canada had 4 undrafted players, and I want to start with the oldest, Snake, Ethan McKenzie, who's also passed, did not get drafted, but made Team Canada, which is rare to see. What did you think of his tournament? He ended up with 5 points in 7 games. Not bad.
I thought, like most of the defensemen on the Canadian side, he kind of became very overwhelmed in his own zone, but he was not the only one. So far, that was a surprise selection on my part. I would have picked Bryce Bickford, obviously, but I understand what they did. They were looking for a certain type of defenseman, which Bryce Bickford is not. So they got McKenzie. You see, this is the type of guy that, not that I wouldn't draft him, but I wouldn't necessarily go out of my way to take him. Like, okay, maybe if he's there in the 4th round and I have no one else left on my list that I'm really passionate about, because I'm not saying he won't have an NHL career, but I think this is the type of guy he'll need a couple of years in the American Hockey League, I'm sure. And then I see a guy who's going to be like so many number 5, number 6 defensemen in the NHL. I don't see a big upside, but the possibility of an NHL career. So like I say, if he's available in the 4th round, I have no one else. I'll take a flyer on him, but I think he will go earlier in the draft. Just the fact that he was picked by the junior team, I think it's nice visibility for him. So we wish him well, and maybe a 2nd round pick. Who knows?
Yeah. Now, Snake, I like the fact you mentioned that the defensemen for Team Canada, they all kind of seemed a little overwhelmed at one point or another. And that would include the other two draft-eligible defensemen who were paired up together for a few games. They're Keaton Verhoff and Carson Carroll's. They both end up, actually, Verhoff had 4 points in 5 games. Carroll's had 1 point in 5 games. But you know what? I thought that in the bronze medal, they actually looked pretty decently.
Yeah.
Especially Verhoff. I thought Verhoff really impressed in the bronze medal game.
Well, those who listen to this podcast religiously will recall that I went to see Verhoff in person in October for North Dakota. I saw him for a couple of games. And I do think that in this kind of tournament, when a 17-year-old doesn't play much, which was the case, it's very hard for him to – it's very hard to pass judgment on him based on the tournament. So you have to look at the whole body of work of a guy like Verhoff. So, yes, he was pretty decent in the bronze medal game. I think this tournament will neither hurt or rise his stock. I think he's a top 3 pick. What I like about Verhoff is the fact that he's, besides the fact that he's 6'4" and 220 pounds, I like the fact that he's kind of a dynamo. This is the kind of guy that I can see at his peak playing 25, 28 minutes a game if need be, in the playoffs and being a very, very strong presence on the ice. So I see a dynamo. However, do I see the skill set of a Schaefer, a McCarr, a Hudson, a Quinn Hughes, Werenski? No. He carries the puck quite a bit. I think that he has to learn at some point to let go of it and pass the puck. Because not being a McCarr, he cannot split the defense, although he tries to. He cannot go around defensemen. He's no Demidov, if you see my point, with the puck. So I think at some point, once he reaches the opponent's blue line, then he has to think, okay, what am I going to do? Who can I pass the puck to? He tries to do a little bit too much by himself. I'm talking about what I saw with North Dakota. But I see a top 3 pick. Right now, as of January 8th, he's number 2 on my list. Not because I see a fantasy league superstar. No. But because I see a player on the ice who will be extremely useful. And this is the kind of player that, 5, 6, 8 years down the road, you look at a guy like this, his team wins the Stanley Cup, and you think, okay, that was an important piece. Although he's not the star of the team necessarily, the superstar of the team. And you need guys like that. And as for Carl's, look, he didn't play much. But he's been very impressive so far in junior hockey. To me, he's the top 10 pick. He's good defensively. He's a very, very good offensive defenseman. And any defenseman on the Canadian team this year didn't really help himself because of how the whole team, the whole defense corps behaved as a group.
It was bad.
Correct. We knew that defensively, he's a liability. He's a total liability. We've seen him before, but he scores a lot of points. I think in the NHL, if he doesn't get better and he's not willing to improve his defensive play, I think he might just become kind of a power play specialist. I don't know. He really needs to improve that aspect of the game. Otherwise, he's good. But so I think this is the thing with the defense. Was it coaching? Was it the fact that they were not used to playing together? Was it the fact that they tried to do too much? Because don't forget that all these guys are stars on their team.
Yeah, that's true.
They're mostly number 1 defensemen. And the thing with Czechia is that, most of them play junior hockey, but they're not necessarily the star on their team. So these guys have a tendency sometimes to work more as a team, whereas the Canadian teams and to an extent the American team, we're talking about individual stars that we're trying to put together. And this is not easy. So I think on defense, Like I said, I don't have an explanation, but it was a mess. And again, a guy like Carson Carroll's, I don't think he's hurt his draft stock. I liked him so far. And is he the second best draft eligible defenseman behind Verhoff? I think there's another guy we're going to talk about today.
Yeah,
you probably know who I'm talking about, but Carls has to be in the conversation as at least one of the best 3 or 4 defensemen eligible. It's not a bad year for defensemen for a team that's looking for D. A building team, let's say like the San Jose Sharks, depending on where they finish in the standings, because Celebrini is keeping them out of the lottery. The man is insane. And that's another 2 points yesterday that if Celebrini is not on the team, they don't get.
He might actually be hurting the Sharks long term. How good he is. Like, it's crazy.
I was thinking Verhoff at the beginning of the year. They go 4-2, and I'm thinking Verhoff in San Jose, that would be good. Okay, forget about Verhoff unless they totally collapse or they win the lottery. So that's my opinion on the draft eligible players. I'm sure you want to talk about another guy too on Canada.
I saved him for last. So Gavin McKenna had 14 points in 7 games.
Yeah.
It's a 2-point per game pace. Okay.
Yeah.
Offensively, he produced. Now it's the rest of the game that we were more keying in on, because that's where the concerns are. We know he can produce. We know he can put up points. We know how gifted he is. Can he be a reliable hockey player for however many minutes the coach wants him to play? Okay. What's your answer to that, Snake?
That's a tough question. And I'll tell you why it's a tough question. Because I think sometimes we are being a little bit too hard on certain players outside of their offensive skills. And other times we'll be more lenient. Oh, well, he's not very good defensively, but it doesn't matter. He scores 100 points. With Gavin McKenna, every little thing that he does or doesn't do, depending on the case, is micro-analyzed.
Yeah.
His body language, if he doesn't forecheck, if he doesn't. So I'm thinking, wow, do we want the perfect hockey player?
Well, that's what kind of, a lot of people were promising that, right?
That's
for years. They were saying this is the next one. This is the next one. So
that was my point.
Expectations are just through the roof for this guy.
That's the point. You take the words out of my mouth. That's why we are being so harsh, because we've been watching him since the age of 14. He's been in WHL since the age of 14. That's crazy. I remember his first game at the age of 14. He had 4 assists. Yeah. I mean, at that time, I'm thinking, okay, this is McDavid 2.0.
Yeah.
And then you as unlike, let's say, I'm just comparing a guy like Beckett Seneca. No one knew of him knew of him. No one really considered him as a top prospect 2 years ago at Christmas time. And then by the end of the year, he became a top 3 pick. Even he was surprised at the draft.
Yeah.
So I think that these guys who are on an upward trajectory late in the process are not micro-analyzed as much as guys who have been great, I would say, since the age of 14.
Yeah.
John Tavares, it was the same thing. He started playing junior hockey. He had just turned 15. And again, he went number 1, but a lot of people, his skating is not that good. Blah, 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 blah. And I get it. I did the same thing too. I wasn't a huge Tavares fan. And I think it's normal now that Gavin McKenna, we know what he can do with the puck. We know he has great hands. We know he can make these crazy plays that no one else can in this 2026 draft, not even Stenberg. But then you're thinking, okay, you're looking at him and he lacks engagement sometimes.
Yeah.
And the NHL, if you look at the games, regular season games, but even more so the playoffs, I mean, we're all looking for the Sam Bennett energy.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the thing is, teams that go very far in the playoffs, all their players, stars or fourth liners or number one defensemen, they all have this engagement level that is off the roof. So you're looking at McKenna and you're thinking, okay, all this dangling is very nice, and he gets these points, and he might get 90 points in the NHL, maybe 100 points. But, what's he going to do against Dallas in the conference finals? Is he just going to drop the ball? We don't know. But I'm just saying this is what scouts are thinking right now. And this is why, although he's the most talented player in the draft. Let's face it.
Yes.
Yeah, easily. Not Verhoff, not Stenberg, not Bjork, not Tynan Lawrence, no one else. But you always wonder about how he's going to turn out. Personally, I think he's going to be a good point producer. I have no doubts. I think he's going to get bigger at some point. Look, Connor Bedard got bigger this year. He's his game is transforming a little bit. So I do think that McKenna at some point will adjust. He's 18 years old. But is he the generational player that some of us, including myself, thought he would be? The answer is no. Is he going to be a superstar? I'm not even sure. But he's going to be a very good player in the NHL. Excellent player. I do think so. He's going to be a point producer. If you're in a fantasy league, don't hesitate to draft him. No, but I prefer Stenberg overall. If I'm a coach, if I'm a GM, I prefer to have Stenberg on my team.
Absolutely. No, that's it. I mean, it's the little things that kind of make you go, I don't love that. I don't love that. Like, semifinal game, right? It's a tight game against Czechia. And then at the end of the game, you take a stupid penalty by punching a guy in the face for no reason. Sure, we're overanalyzing here, but
yeah,
again, if you're the team who's picking first overall, like, these are legitimate red flags that you have to kind of consider before you're drafting him. So sure, he's got all the talent in the world, but what about everything else? Like, hockey is a complicated game. It's not just, okay, you got to put the puck in the net. No, there's a lot more that go into it. So, he's got a long ways to go, but overall, I mean, 14 points in 7 games is nothing to scoff at, especially
obviously not, especially at his age. Yeah, he has one more year of eligibility for the WJC. So but the thing also with McKenna is that's if it were just like a game or a tournament, I would say, okay, well, this is a very small sample. But the things that we noticed at the WJC is how he's been playing at Penn State. And this is also what I saw at the Memorial Cup last year. Mm-hmm. I'm really, really focused on this guy last year. Every ship, I'm watching him and everything. And all these things that you just described, I saw last year too. So, and I was disappointed because honestly, I know he had 1 million fans, but I was probably in one of his biggest fans the first 3 years. And one of the reasons why I went to the Memorial Cup last year in Rimouski was to go see Gavin McKenna. I was so excited, and I think he had an okay tournament, but there were some things where there were some red flags that made me go, and it killed me to say that because I loved him.
Exactly. No, that's it. Hey, listen, still, the talent is there. It's undeniable. If he can figure out the rest, we got a heck of a player here. No doubt about that. Snake, 4 more guys I'd like to talk about with you. And I'd like to go to Team Finland quickly.
Okay.
Because Team Finland had 2 guys that I'm interested to hear your thoughts on. One of them is an overager in Jasper Kuta. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but
you do.
8 points in 7 games. Okay. Yeah. He was noticeable. Like, Team Finland is never like, oh, wow, look at this guy. Except when you had like Patrick Laine and Jesse Puljujärvi, right? Most of the time, Team Finland is just grind, work hard, get the dirty goals, right? That's kind of their style. I noticed Jasper Kuta when he was on the ice. I'm like, wow, this guy's pretty interesting. What did you think of him?
Well, that's a guy who went undrafted, but he's playing in Ottawa in the OHL 67s. I saw him in person this fall. I have to say he's very impressive. Again, he's 19 years old. Okay, so you always have to consider that he's older than the average age in the OHL, but he was very impressive, and that's a guy I think he's going to go high. He's one of these 19-year-old guys who's going to go high. I think he's going to go in the top 2 rounds. And honestly, depending on what's left on my board, late first, early second, I would consider him, depending on what's left on my board. Yeah. Even before Galvis.
Oh, really?
Yeah, even before Galvis, I would consider him, because I think he really has the fact that he plays in Ontario. Also, you can tell that you can compare him with NHL players, because it's the same style of hockey that they play. And I do think that this is an undrafted guy who could surprise eventually. I don't know how good he'll be, but I think he has a good chance at making the NHL.
Yeah. I really enjoyed watching him. And then another guy that's draft eligible, it's the big centerman.
Yeah.
Oliver Suvanto.
Yeah.
2 points in 7 games, but very interesting profile. He's already 6'3" or something. It's a big boy, can move.
This is the type of centerman that teams are looking for.
Yeah.
Forget about the 2 points in 7 games. He's 17 years old. He didn't play necessarily a big offensive role on the team. So that's not a problem. I think this is a guy who's going to go top 10. Right now, I have him around probably number 10 on my list. And he's the typical number 2 centerman that a lot of teams are looking for, because he's physical. He has some offensive skills, I think. And I think he would be an ideal number 2 centerman on many, 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 many teams in the NHL. So we'll see. We'll see about the rest of the season. But he showed good promise at the tournament as a double underager.
That's it.
Yeah, as a 17-year-old.
Very impressive. No, he was good. Now, the other 2 players, Snake, are both defensemen. I'm going to start in the U.S., though.
Yeah.
Chase Reed. Chase Reed had 4 points in 5 games, plays for the Sioux Greyhounds. What'd you think of his game?
Chase Reed, he's another guy. When I mentioned like 3 or 4 guys who are like going to be in the conversation for the top defenseman after Verhoff, I think Chase Reed is one of them. I think he's a good combination of offense and defense.
Yeah.
At the tournament, I have to say that there were times that he was a little bit overwhelmed on defense. But look, the U.S. didn't have a very good team. Cole Hudson was injured.
Yeah.
And they didn't have a great team. So I wouldn't put too much stock on his performance, but he still showed flashes, I would say. And that's a guy that I've been watching a lot this year in junior hockey. It's rare, an American top prospect who plays junior hockey. And what's interesting about this guy is that last year, for part of the year, at the beginning of the year, he played in the NAHL. And the NAHL is the North American Hockey League. And this is a junior league that is one level below the USHL. They mostly play in the Dakotas and the state of Minnesota. And usually goalies are drafted out of this league because, goalies at some point you don't know where to play them because there's only one goalie, well, 2, but really one number 1 goalie per team. So sometimes these goalies, if they can't be a number 1 in the USHL, they'd rather be a number 1 in the NHL. And there are NHL scouts attending these games. But it's kind of a rare case, that an NHL player will go from NAHL to 1 year later being a top prospect for the NHL draft and doing so well in junior hockey. So that's Reed's background. I think he's on an upward trajectory, and I do like him. To me, right now, he's probably between 5 and 10.
Now, the last one. We're going to Team Latvia here. We're going to talk about Albert Smits.
Yes, sir.
By the way, why do every Latvian name is in plural? Albert Smits.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just an observation. It's pretty funny, but
I don't know. Maybe we have some Latvian
yes, please,
listeners who can explain to us. Like the way I
noticed.
learned a long time ago that in Russia, the family name, if you're a woman, there's an A at the end, and if you're a male, there's no A.
Interesting.
Yeah. So let's say you remember tennis player Anna Kournikova.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if she had a brother or not, but if she had a brother, his name was Kournikov.
Interesting. Wow.
But she became Kournikova. She's Kournikova because she's a woman. So anyway, it would be interesting to know. Arturs Irbe, you remember the goalie for the NHL goalie? Maybe you're a little bit too young, but he was goalie for the Sharks, and it was Arturs
Silovs, right? Elvis
Arturs
Likins.
Yeah, that's
it's like every
one.
Latvian name ends with an S. It's pretty
like I say,
interesting.
if we have some Latvian listeners, would be curious. I'm always curious to know about the origin of names in all countries. And so getting back to hockey and not the geography, Albert Smits, that's an interesting case. He plays in Finland this year. It was the right move because, Latvian hockey has really, really progressed over the years because the proof is we have some of them playing in the CHL and they're good. And we as a junior scout, we do scout players from that country. And but I think it's always better at a certain point if they want to have a career in the NHL to move on, which is normal. Same thing for let's say Canadian soccer players who will go to other countries to where the sport is more prominent. So Smits is playing in Finland. He's been so good. This is a big guy who I don't know offensively how he'll turn out. I think it's a little bit too early in the process to evaluate his offensive game. But I do think that his physical presence is he's smart. He's very good defensively, and he's going to play at the Olympics.
Yeah, that's
and it's going to be interesting to see him against NHLers. Like not even NHLers, star NHLers.
Yeah.
Like Canada, US, Sweden. So we're going to see him. I think if he has a good Olympic tournament, he could even climb up the rankings. I think he's already very high.
Yes.
I think that right now on the teams lists, I'm sure some teams have him in the top 5. Most of them probably in the top 10. Mm-hmm. So I think a good Olympic tournament could really, really help him. And this is a guy that we're going to see in the NHL very, very soon. Maybe not next year, but the year after. So I do like his game, and he's probably, because I'm so passionate about the draft. I think at the Olympics, he's probably the player I'm the most interested in. Well, besides,
it makes sense.
The Celebrinis and the McDavids, and you know what I mean. Yeah. But because it's always intriguing. Slavkovsky played at the Olympics 4 years ago, but the difference is that the NHLers weren't there.
Oh, that's it.
So he had a very good performance, but so did John Farrell for the States.
That's fair. Yeah.
So it was very hard to judge in 2022. But this year, it's going to be very, very cool to see Smits play against NHLers.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, those are all the names that I had. Did I miss anybody?
Hey, I'm looking at this very quickly. No, I don't think so. Well, Finland has a defenseman, Juho Piparainen. We didn't see much at the tournament. He's a double underager. We didn't see much. Number 6. I think he's another top 10, 15 prospect. Like I say, lots of defensemen this year. Whereas, some years there's nothing, and some other years there's a lot of them. So although there's no Cale Makar, I think any team looking for a defenseman down the road, 3-4 years down the road, in the top 15 will get a nice batch to choose from. There was also Adam Novotny, number 24.
That's true,
he plays junior hockey in Canada, so this is the guy that we're more where Canadian fans are more familiar with, but this is for Czechia. So this is a guy who I think had a decent tournament as a 17-year-old. Mm-hmm. So Novotny, probably a first-round pick, I would say, maybe top 20. So there were a few guys that were interesting. One guy I want to mention, although you want to talk about him first, is the Habs had another player at the tournament, and we didn't talk about him very much. LG Mooney.
Last show was mainly focused on Michael Hage. I mean, he was the tournament leader in points. Like, he finished with 15 points in 7 games. You know, we kind of had to dedicate a whole show to him, but you're good to mention that, the Habs did have another player who did pretty well in the tournament for Team USA, that being LJ Mooney.
Oh, and there's another player that I forgot to mention. Lars Steiner. He plays for Rwanda in the Q. He was at the tournament for Denmark. And that's another guy that probably late first-round pick. He was a top rookie in the Q last year. This is a guy who has very good offensive skills, and he goes to the net. And this is a guy not to forget. And a very potential first-round pick, worst-case scenario, early second round, I would say.
Yeah.
So getting back to LJ. LJ had 3 points in 5 games. Again, he was an underager. Most players, on the Canadian and American teams are 19 years old. I think he had an okay tournament. I think what we could see was his speed and his puck handling. Mm-hmm. Those are the 2 strengths. And as a 5'7" guy, you have to be fast. It's very rare that a 5'7" guy who is not a top skater will make it. It does happen, but in general, they don't. Now, for Mooney, he has a good freshman season in Minnesota. The question is always, as he gets to the other level, how will he be affected by the physical play? Because he is small. But the fact that he's highly skilled, perhaps he can find a path to the NHL. I always thought if he makes it, it would probably as an offensive third-line center, and you're trying to pair him up with 2 big guys. Maybe that would work. We've seen this before. But as a top 6, especially the way the Habs are being built right now, I don't see it. It could be trade bait. Who knows? Mm-hmm. Sometimes the Habs at some point are going to start trading for players, to go further in the playoffs. And they're not going to trade Zarovsky, or they're not going to trade Michael Hage or David Ronbacher. So sometimes a second-tier prospect is involved in trades. Maybe LJ Mooney will be one of them, but he's been fun to watch this year in Minnesota.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, that's it. He's an easy player to root for. That's what I say when I see.
He's fun. He's fun to watch.
Easy to player to root for. Yeah. Love to see him there, and he had a decent tournament for the U.S. Let us know in the comments section which player impressed you the most from the World Juniors, and which player you want your favorite team to draft in June. We want to hear from you in the chat, and don't forget to send in your questions. We didn't get too many questions in the last show. A lot of you tuned in, so don't forget, you can ask us questions. We might get to it at the end of the show. We got 3 waiting in the queue a little later on. Snake, before we move on, just a little point here. Lots of trades in the CHL, okay? And we're probably going to circle back on that a few weeks down the road to see how those players traded are doing. Lots of big names. Sam O'Reilly was moved, right? London traded a player. That's rare. Went to Kitchener. And there's an interesting fact that you wanted to bring up regarding OHL trades. I'll let you do that.
Yeah. We'll see how these trades turn out. I mean, in the Q, Blainville, Boisvert, and Chicoutimi, they kept,
they went all out,
going back and forth.
Yeah.
Boisvert even made a trade with us for Jan Golicic, a Tampa Bay pick. Now, those who have seen the Sam O'Reilly trade this week probably wondered, why all these second and third round picks? Why all this truckload of picks, but no first round pick? This doesn't make sense. Well, the reason why it does make sense is because a few years ago, the OHL has passed a rule where you cannot trade first-round picks anymore. And I do think that the reason is because teams that were loading up for a run at the Memorial Cup were trading away first-round picks like, people give out candy on Halloween night.
Yeah.
And they would end up for years and years and years without a first-round pick. So imagine a team that would give away 3 first-round picks, for various players. So you don't have a pick in 26. You don't have a pick in 27. You don't have a pick in 28. And don't forget, most teams that make it with 19-year-old players, the year after, they plummet down the standings. But then they don't have their first-round pick.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you reload? Which could create a situation where a team is bad for 6-7 years. So I think this is the reason why they did it. So that's why you see all these second-round picks, from 27, 28, 29, a boatload of picks for a guy like O'Reilly, whereas probably in the past, he would have been traded for, 2 first-round picks, and that would have been it. Because obviously first-round picks are more valuable than second-round picks, especially that since those teams go down the standings down the road, these picks become very valuable.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen this very often where a junior team, they go for it, they trade their first-round pick, and the year after, they finish last in the standings.
Yeah.
And then, okay, it's very frustrating not to have picks. I've been through this. Very frustrating. Yeah.
Oh, it's interesting. But, I think a lot of people forgot about it or maybe didn't know that you can't trade first-round picks in the OHL. That's very interesting. But it makes sense. It makes sense when you think about it. And, lots of trades going down.
Oh, yeah.
So we're probably going to revisit that down the road. But for now, we're going to move along. And I think it's a perfect time to tell you all about our partners at the Sick Podcast. I'm going to start off with our good friends over at Cheapest T-Shirts. If you're looking for the cheapest prices on wholesale apparel in Canada, you will find them at cheapesttshirts.ca. They are proudly Canadian and trusted by thousands of customers from coast to coast. They deliver unbeatable value every single day. You'll always get the cheapest prices, plus same-day shipping and even next-day delivery. So your order arrives fast. Enjoy free shipping on larger orders and a simple, easy-to-use website that makes online ordering a breeze. You can get the cheapest deals in Canada today at cheapesttshirts.ca. And a big shout out, of course, to our friends over at Betway. Don't select a bust with Betway and get a deposit matchup bonus up to $300 on your first deposit. You can scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account and redeem your welcome offer. The offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. The offer is not available in Ontario, and you must be 18 years or older. Please play responsibly. It's been a while since we did this, but it's Thursday, which means it's time for Snake's Hot Take. We did not consult before the show, so I have no idea what you got cooked up for us, Snake, but I look forward to hearing what it is.
Well, I'm not going to spend too much time on the hot take this week because this is something that I've mentioned many times before. But every year, I think a lot of people need a reminder about this. Canada, for the third year in a row, did not win a gold or even a silver medal. Mm-hmm. And the day after the elimination, you always read or hear about people saying, okay, the state of hockey in Canada is bad. We do not develop players as well as we did before, blah, blah, blah. Okay.
There's a few players missing from Team Canada.
That's the point. First of all, Canadian hockey is fine because you add Celebrini, Seneca, Matthew Schaefer, Ben Kindle, Sam Dickinson, Berkeley Catton. we're not gonna be complaining about the state of Canadian hockey this week if these guys had been playing at the World Juniors. And those who say, well, other countries are in the same predicament. Well, no, because they were the only NHLers who missed the World Junior tournament. Every other team, I think Buffalo kept Helenius in the AHL for Finland. I think only that's one. I think only Helenius wasn't part of the team in Finland. Now, another point is Canada as dominant as they used to be in hockey? Well, if you look at the superstars, the McDavids, the McKinnons, the McCarrs, Celebrini, Matthew Schaefer, well, all these guys are Canadian.
Yeah.
But are they as dominant as they used to be as a whole? The answer is no. But for a very simple reason. And I'll make a parallel with football. When I was growing up in the 70s, I think 98% of players were Canadian. You had a few American players, and European players only arrived in the 70s. Sweden with Boris Salming, you might have heard of him. Yep. There's a very good show, a biopic. I don't know if it's on Crave or another platform, but there's a very good biopic, Borje. So he was like the first guy from Sweden who came to play in Canada. And little by little, after the Berlin Wall fell down, then you had Eastern countries who started releasing players. So, yeah, there were more teams in the NHL. You needed more players with expansion. But also, it kind of reduced the number of Canadian players to, what is the stat now? In the 50s, I think 50-some percent, maybe 55, 59, I don't know. But around that number. So obviously, one could conclude that, well, we're not as good as before. We only have 50-something percent of players. Well, it's because other teams, other countries are playing hockey, and I think it's good.
Yeah.
Because would you rather have 98% of Canadian players in the NHL, but like 30% of them are not very good? No. Or would you rather have, all these star players from the States and Europe that we have right now? So it doesn't mean Canadian hockey is not good. Yeah. Now, I'm not involved in minor hockey. I start scouting players at the age of 15. So I am not going to comment on the development of an 8, a 9, a 10, an 11-year-old. There are people at Hockey Canada, Hockey Quebec, who are way more qualified than I am to write, 500-page reports about it. So I do not know. But what I know is that I see what's happening in the NHL right now. And obviously, Canada is still very, very strong. And they win the under-18 tournament very often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They win at the under-17. They bring like 2 full teams, the under-17.
Yeah, red and white.
They split it. They split it, and still they dominate. But, at the World Juniors, the caveat is that some guys are in the NHL.
That's it.
So at the U17, you get all your best players. At U18, you get all your best players. But at the U20, you have like 6 NHLers. So I think that's the reason. So I'm not worried about the state of hockey in Canada. And the parallel I will make with football, just to conclude on this, is that, Americans might say, well, we're the top football country in the world. Yeah, of course they are. But what's the percentage of American players in the NFL? 96, 97? There are Canadian. There's a few international players. Some of them are kickers. But really, if other countries started playing playing football, the way Americans, devote time and resources to this, well, maybe at some point there would only be 70% of American players in the NFL. Mm-hmm. I think the NFL, as we know it now, is like Canadian hockey, the National Hockey League in 1965. So crazy. It doesn't take anything away from Canada. It just means that the sport is more international. It's like golf, PGA Tour, 50, 60 70 years ago, all American. Now you look at the PGA Tour, you have the Rory McIlroys,
Worldwide,
you have all these guys from other countries. Yeah, they're on the LPGA. There's a lot of Korean players. So, okay, it's just more international. I think it's cool.
It's great. It's a great thing.
It doesn't take anything away from Canadian hockey.
No.
So that was my take. So please stop with the state of Canadian hockey and trying to rewrite the book. Although I would think that perhaps at the minor hockey league level there are things to be done, but I'm not qualified to tell you what it should be.
It's a great thing, Snake, that there's more and more serious hockey countries. I mean, take Latvia, for example. Like Albert Smits is probably going to go top 10 in this draft, right? Go back to 2022. The first 2 picks were from Slovakia, right? Like, this is a great thing. The more hockey nations there are, the better. This is fantastic. So I'm completely on board with what you
especially
said.
with expansion coming up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. No, it's really, really good. All right. And with that, let's go digging in the mailbag. Now, our 3 questions today come from the same person. Let's pull it up.
A hat trick.
TNT Shark said, I got a question. No, my friend, you got 3. More than 1, actually. Yeah, exactly. Snake, when you watched the game live between San Jose and Anaheim, what did you think of Igor Chernyshov? Talked about him a little bit last show.
Yeah.
Your expectation of his ceiling.
Yeah, Chernyshov, I really liked in his draft year. I had him ranked 19th overall while he was playing in Russia. Last year, he came to Saginaw in the OHL, played with Michael Misa. He was like absolutely amazing. I think he was on a 3-point per game pace.
Crazy, yeah.
And then the Sharks sent him to the American Hockey League to start the year, but then he was pretty dominant, and they called him up, and I doubt he will go down again. He is and was playing with Celebrini when I watched him. I think he is the typical power forward that every team dreams of having on the roster. He's a great complement to a centerman like Celebrini. He is huge. He's fast. He has good hands, and he gets to the dirty areas. He works hard. I mean, he's really, really the prototypical power forward that all fans and coaches love. And as for his ceiling, well, I think it depends who he plays with, but I do think that he's a top 6 player. Will he stay with Celebrini forever? We don't know. Will Smith is going to come back. Michael Misa is going to be in the equation. They might match them, pair them up together, since they had a lot of success in Saginaw last year. But I do see a top 6 guy. Could he be a 60, 70-point player? Not impossible.
Interesting. No, man, you think about the Sharks offense in a few years, like Celebrini, Misa, Will Smith, Quentin Musty, Chernyshov, William Eklund, like the list goes on. It's my goodness.
Yeah, but their defense,
we're not there yet.
That's going to be another topic. Yeah.
All right, let's get to TNT Shark's second question. And this one's about the Ducks. Now, who do you think will have the better career between Beckett Seneca and Leo Carlsson?
In a way, they are different types of players. Leo Carlsson is a playmaker, although he can score goals. Seneca is a goal scorer, although he can make plays. Yeah. But they are different types of players. They're both big. They're both very imposing physical presence. But Carlsson is it's like he was born with a stick and a puck, in his hands. I would say that perhaps, especially the 3 games that I saw last week, he's trying to do a little bit too much. Sometimes he one-on-one, he'll always try to go around the defenseman. Doesn't always work, because these guys in the NHL, they play the puck carrier. They don't play the puck. He tries to split the defense. I think he's trying to do a little bit too much. He's going to have to learn, like I said about Verhoff, to pass a little bit more. Although, contrary to Verhoff, there are times where he is able, these moves work. He is able to get past the defenseman, split the defense and everything. So he is a spectacular player. For older listeners, I compared him to Matt Sundin back in the day. As for Seneca, he's like he's just a great forward. He's 6'4". He's tough as nails. He's only 19 years old. He's only going to get bigger and stronger and better. Better career, I would have to say Carlson, but it's gonna just because he's a centerman. But it's going to be very close.
Both pretty good players. That's going to be fun to watch in Anaheim. Let's get to the third question. This one says, we heard people talking about the Hughes brothers dreaming of being reunited together one day in New Jersey. Now, even if Jack and Luke have already signed a long-term contract with the Devils, do you agree that they should be reunited in Minnesota instead? New Jersey seems like a boring place to play, and they get pumped 9-0 sometimes too. Minnesota is the real hockey city, the other side of the board, and I think the future will be brighter there too. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think a lot of people assumed that when that Quinn Hughes was either going to be traded to New Jersey or that he was going to become a free agent in a year and a half and he would go to New Jersey. Now, nothing is sure anymore. I don't know if Minnesota is willing to give another $15-16 million contract after what they did with Kaprizov.
Yeah.
But the big obstacle for the other Hughes brothers to come to Minnesota is that Jack Hughes' contract finishes in 2030 in New Jersey, and Luke Hughes' contract ends in 2032. That's 5 to 7 years ahead. And at that time, in 2032, I think Quinn Hughes will be like 33, maybe 34. So I'm not saying they'll never play together, but if they're going to play together, it would have to be Quinn going to New Jersey. Yes, the arena is in the middle of nowhere in New Jersey, but I don't know if that would be a factor, for players. They just go to the arena to play hockey. But it's true that New Jersey lacks maybe an identity as like for their fan base. They're not like based in a city, like Minneapolis and St. Paul or Montreal or Toronto. But look, the idea of playing with his brothers is probably something that he would consider. As for the brothers going to Minnesota, too many obstacles right now.
Yeah. The Wild have the trade chips in a sense, but they already traded quite a few to get Quinn. I doubt that they'll trade the rest to get the other two. So it's going to be tough. But hey, look, Bill Guerin, he's got the nuts. we'll just say it like that. He's got the nuts to do it. So who knows? He's pretty crazy. So
New Jersey has been very disappointing this year, by the way.
Oh my God.
They were considered an up-and-coming team maybe 3 years ago. And then it's been kind of a seesaw ride for them. This is one team that probably will touch base on in future shows because it's part of our trust the process.
Exactly.
Theme. So we'll talk about the Devils later this season.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the Olympics is a pretty good barometer, right? To tell where you're at in the standings, what you're going to do with your assets, your players. Yeah, we're going to touch on the Devils again later on, but I think that's going to wrap up today's show, Snake. Anything else to add?
No, except Tony mentioned I was on his show in French a couple of days ago, and he said he was talking about his friends, and they were talking about Sweden, wondering if Sweden perhaps hadn't passed Canada in terms of quality of players, not necessarily the stars, but the more like the middle of the lineup players and everything. And I told Tony that's a very good idea for a show with Shayne. And next week, I don't know when, but next week we're going to probably talk about this. I'm going to do a little research about Swedish players. Mm-hmm. I know I did something like that about Swedish players playing in Sweden, but now we're talking about Swedish players in the NHL.
Yeah.
And we'll try and line it up with Canadian players. And I think look, Sweden is very good, but I still think even without the stars, I think Canada has more good players than Sweden. But we'll see. We'll do a little research about it.
Absolutely. That's a great topic. That's a great topic. We'll tackle
Thank
that.
you. Thank you, Mr. Marinero.
Yeah. Shout out to Tony and his friends too. They got great hockey discussions over there in Ville LaSalle. So we're back on next week. We're back Monday. We're back Thursday. And Monday we'll be at the studio. So that's going to be fun. And obviously we're going to talk Habs prospect. Alexander Zurovsky's got Kuznetsov now as a center. They're already clicking. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more. Make sure you're subscribed. Turn on the notification bell so you are notified when we upload a new episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Send in your questions, okay? We want to hear from you, and we might just answer your question in the mailbag segment. So, for Simon the Snake Bavai, I'm producer Shayne. Thank you to Sammy and Yaniello back at Master Control. This has been another edition of the Sick Podcast. Trust the process. We'll see you Monday.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast, Trust the Process on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.